Namaste. Welcome everyone for today's webinar. I'm Ankur Patel, your host, joining from Florida. Please share with us where you are joining from. Dilipji from Maryland, thank you for being on. Jan from Port St. Lucia in Florida, glad to have you on. Dr. Mark, you want to say hello to everyone and where you're joining from, and Chris as well?
Namaste, everybody. So beautiful to be with all of you, and just so happy to share this sacred space and sacred time with you. I'm here in Nevada City, California. Of course, that's where the California College of Ayurveda is, and I'm right around the corner actually from the college, and it's just so beautiful here today. And I'm really excited to share the knowledge of Ayurveda with all of you.
Yeah, and I am also coming from the California College of Ayurveda here in Nevada City, California. We are very excited to talk with you today about the important components of mental, emotional well being.
Great. Thank you for that. Janet from Eastern Canada, welcome. John Jones from Albuquerque, New Mexico, Astoria, Oregon, welcome. And let us get started with today's webinar. The topic is healthy aging, managing stress and enhancing your mental health. So this is the second of a series of monthly conversations with Dr. Mark Halpern, the founder of the California College of Ayurveda. And of course, we also have clinical Ayurvedic specialist Chris Garber. And we're going to explore how the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda can help us navigate the challenges of modern life. And there are so many. In this session, we're going to have an insightful dialogue between Chris Garber and Dr. Halpern on managing stress, anxiety, the emotional imbalance that we may be suffering from through Ayurveda. So we're going to get into a deep conversation that touches on lots of different Ayurvedic principles and how Ayurvedic can help with mental health, lifestyle, diet, sleep, quality of our relationships. And so, um, I mean, with that brief introduction, I think we can get started and I can hand it. Actually, let me introduce our folks, our faculty and our panelists just a little bit. So, Dr. Mark Halpern, he's a doctor of chiropractic. He's an Ayurveda Acharya. He's played an important role in the development of Ayurvedic medicine in the West, and many consider him to be a preeminent practitioner and teacher of Ayurveda in the United States. And he's continuing to develop new programs, new courses, new ways to bring Ayurveda to the West. And we're grateful for his leadership. And also with us, we have Chris Garber. He's a CAS, which is a clinical Ayurvedic specialist. He's a faculty member and practitioner at the California College of Ayurveda. He's also a graduate of CCA. He finished in 2022, and he's held a multitude of past and current roles, including herbal technician, body therapist, curriculum workshop instructor, and practitioner. Now we are adding webinar panelist to that list of titles. So with that, let me hand it to Chris to give our webinar some context, some more details, and get us started. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for another session in our Healthy Aging series. Today, we're going to be diving deep into what is arguably one of the most urgent topics for all of us, regardless of age: managing stress and enhancing your mental health. Let's be honest, we live in a time where emotional overwhelm, anxiety, and burnout have reached epidemic proportions. The mental health crisis we face is unprecedented, and it's hitting our youth especially hard. Nearly half report chronic stress, depression, or anxiety due to factors such as academic pressure, financial uncertainty, and an unrelenting digital overload. But this isn't just an issue of our youth. Many of us, particularly adults aged 35 to 55, are experiencing significant burnout and exhaustion, juggling the rigorous demands of caregiving, work, nonstop responsibility. When you combine those factors with irregular sleep, poor daily routines, and technological overstimulation, it's a clear recipe for destabilized emotional life. But here's the good news, the really good news. It's never too late to address these challenges. We can rebuild clarity and emotional strength through integrative, root caused approaches. Ayurveda offers a powerful framework reminding us that mental and emotional well-being are intimately connected to our daily rhythm, quality of our sleep, and the immense power of our breath. Practices like meditation, pranayama, yoga nidra offer profound tools for calming the nervous system and rebuilding ojas, the very essence of our resilience. And that's why we're very grateful to have a genuine pioneer with us today, Dr. Mark Halpern, founder of California College of Ayurveda and a true leader in clinical practice. He's dedicated his life to this work, and I'm excited to explore with him how Ayurveda can guide us towards greater balance, clarity, and emotional strength, no matter where we are on our life's journey. So, Dr. Halpern, it's an honor to have you here. We know that many people right now are facing real struggles, stress, with exhaustion, and especially with sleep. They're looking for practical, accessible solutions that get to the root cause. So let's dive right into the core Ayurvedic principles and help guide them on a clear roadmap for their own healing.
Thank you so much, Chris. Um, you know, you said so many important things about the prevalence of stress and the impact that it has on our lives. And whether you're a young child, whether you're a middle-aged adult, or whether you're an elder in the community, it affects all of us. And when it comes to our elders, it's a different situation because it's not uh, simply the burnout of doing too much and having so much responsibility. Because as you get into your 70s, sometimes the 60s, 80s for sure, you don't have those same family responsibilities. You don't have those same pressures, and yet 50% of elders experience anxiety and depression. It's an extraordinary challenge within the elder community as well. So really, these conditions affect every stage of life. There's different stressors. As you get into the elder years, one of those great stressors is that you're seeing those around you becoming very sick. You're seeing those around you struggling, and you're seeing those around you dying. And you're experiencing sometimes loneliness. And oftentimes there's not even a conversation that takes place around the later years of our life. As the stresses change, we become more vulnerable. We become physically vulnerable. We become mentally, intellectually vulnerable. And we're not used to that. So there's a tremendous transformation that occurs in individuals as they start entering into, what's often called the Vanaprastha stage of life, and then the sannyasa stage of life as you get even older. And so all of this brings up a tremendous amount of anxiety, a tremendous amount of emotional challenge for individuals. And you're right, Chris, through living the principles of Ayurvedic medicine, you can manage those conditions and you can keep yourself steady and solid and strong. And that's what we really look toward in Ayurveda. There's a term called Swasta, to be solid in ourself. Sta is a Sanskrit term that means to be steady, to be solid. And Swa is ourselves and who we are. And when you are steady that way, the world around you can go through all of its changes, all of its struggles, and yet it doesn't impact us because we know who we are. And we feel solid in that. Our belief system is core in who we are. And this reduces anxiety. This reduces depression. It reduces the impact of stress. And that's really the goal of Ayurveda. And of course, the path to achieving that is going to be different for each person, because, well, we all have different constitutions, and our constitution is the inherent balance of energy that we come into this world with that establishes all of our tendencies, all of our samskaras. These are all established at the moment of conception. And then we live our lives. We get disturbances in our physiology. Those disturbances are because ultimately we forget who we are. See, if we were solid in knowing who we are, then we wouldn't experience those struggles, but we're not. It's the nature of being human that we're not. We get lost and caught up in the drama of life. And when we do, we forget our true nature. Who we truly are is the divine self. We are spirit. We are the divine. And knowing that and being solid in that, nothing else matters, because then we can be the witness of all the changes that go on at different stages of life. We can be the witness if we were so incarnated as a child. And some children come into this world incredibly aware. We can be the witness of all the stress during the grahasta, during the middle-aged years where we're building our families and building our work life. And we can be the witness in our elder years too, even as we see our bodies change, and we see even our mind change, and we see it around us in the friends and family members that are getting older and passing away. And we recognize that this cycle of life from birth all the way through to death is really, we can say the word illusion, but really what it is just the natural flow of the universe. And this body may go through all of that transformation, but my spirit doesn't. My consciousness does not. It remains the witness, and it remains eternal. It remains immortal. And in that sense, when I know that, when I'm solid in that and steady in that, well, then anxiety comes way down. Depression comes way down. And that's really the goal of Ayurveda. It's to keep the body and the mind steady and healthy, and really so that we can perform our spiritual work in the world and be of service. And where it's service in different ways at different stages in our life. Maybe we'll have some time to talk about that, but service is really what our lives are about. And as we get older, a lot of times we don't know how to be of service. And that also adds to our angst. We're so used to being in that stage that you're in right now, being in that stage of, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do. I've got my work life to manage. I've got my family life to manage. I've got my financial life to manage. I've got so much to do. And then you get older and some scars are still there, but the body can't handle that stress anymore. So yeah, over the course of today, I'm sure we'll talk about many ways to alleviate stress. Do you have any thoughts about that, Chris?
Yeah, for me, I think the first step really in understanding, unpacking the stress is understanding the imbalance. Ayurveda teaches that mental health begins with a balance of the doshas. And for audience members who may be struggling with their current emotional state, how do you see stress and anxiety showing up as specific Vata, Pitta, or Kapha imbalances in today's modern world? What are some of the key signs that we should be looking for?
Yeah, thank you. No matter what your dominant constitutional dosha is, some people are more Vata by nature, some people are more Pitta, some are more Kapha. We're all a blend, though, and we should always remember that, right? We all have our own unique combination of these three physiological forces that impact our bodies and impact our minds. And one of the things an Ayurvedic practitioner does the analysis to understand who you are as a unique individual and what dosha has become out of balance within you. Now, if you have a Vata imbalance, well, that stress, the stress of life, at any stage of life, it turns into anxiety. It turns into anxiety and along with that, we can say a certain amount of fear. What are we afraid of? But there's a fear, there's a nervousness, there's an anxiety, and that shows up in our lives in so many different ways. And certainly, many people experience it at night, right? Because, well, we can keep ourselves busy and distracted during the day. And we try. So many people move so fast during the day, actually, because they want to distract themselves from their feelings. But at night, we can't do that so much. And at night, it can keep us awake, whether we have difficulty falling asleep or sometimes waking up in the middle of the night and not knowing why and not knowing what to do about that. And some people even wake up in a cold sweat. All of this is sign that Vata dosha is out of balance. And that can show up in our relationships as well. A nervousness and anxiety, when it's taken to the extreme, a paranoia, not trusting other people, makes relationships really hard to be in when we're anxious all the time, unless the person we're in relationship with has tremendous patience and compassion and love for us, in which case they allow us to be that anxious person. But it's difficult for those around somebody with anxiety. So our goal, if we're experiencing that, is to develop a treatment plan to help balance that physiology, that Vata dosha physiology that's causing the disturbance. Now, somebody who has more Pitta, when they're under stress, they're more of a Pitta nature. What happens with Pitta is Pitta has a lot of fire in it. And it's very, that sharp, hot, kind of an intense experience. And so when Pitta rises, people get really, really agitated and angry. And maybe even explosive because, the stress itself usually is a Vata provoking experience that can blow on the fire. For instance, change aggravates Vata. So if you go through a divorce, you go through a job change, or the change of your body as you get older, or the change of your mind as it goes older, all these are Vata provocators. But in a person of Pitta nature, what happens is it's like air blowing on fire, and the fire becomes really big. And now a person experiences anger, and could become really quite volatile. And those are the signs of Pitta. Sometimes it's just getting intense. And a lot of times what pittas will do, especially still into the vanaprastha stage of life, is they see the changes happening around them, but they deny them. And they say, no, I'm going to get even more intense and I'm going to work even harder and I'm not going to slow down and, and I'm not going to acknowledge the changes at this stage of my life. And that's another form of intensity. All of this impacts the mind, obviously, but it also impacts the body. And so whatever's disturbing the mind impacts the physiology of the body. So all of this is contributing to physical distress. The physical distress actually speeds up the aging process of the body and the transformation from being healthy to being sick. We have to learn to live in harmony. We have to learn to live in greater balance. Now, kapha is interesting because if you have a predominance of kapha dosha, you actually have a greater ability to resist stress. It means in general, you move slower because you have more earth and more water energy. You move more slowly and stress washes off you a lot more easily. But you're not immune to stress. It just takes a lot more stress to provoke you. And what people of kapha nature do when that stress becomes really high is they gradually become more and more passive aggressive. They become more and more as if they don't care. And by not caring, they sabotage themselves or others in that passive aggressive sort of way. And so no matter what your constitution is, and no matter which dosha is out of balance as a result of stress, we can be prone to experiencing it, and we have to learn how to manage it. There are some general ways to manage it, but there are also some ways that are specific to each dosha. Do you have any thoughts about that, Chris?
Yeah, I really wanted to circle back to when you touched upon sleep. Sleep disturbances are incredibly common today. And when someone wakes up repeatedly, around midnight, 4 a.m., what does Ayurveda understand to be happening behind the scenes? And more importantly, what are some of the more practical, actionable tools that you recommend for improving a deep, restorative quality of sleep?
What's really, really wonderful about technology today is we have these smart watches, right? And they can tell you how you're sleeping. And so you can actually monitor how you're doing each day with how much deep sleep you're getting and how much REM sleep you're getting and how much time you're awake at night. You can use that as an opportunity to see how you improve as you begin to adopt healthier practices into your life. It's a really nice tool to have. In terms of waking up at different times, when you wake up, even if you're having a hard time falling asleep, but if you were to wake up around midnight, that's, we divide the daytime and we divide the nighttime into three different doshic rhythms. So as a general rule, and it's not exactly like this at all times of the year and in all parts of the earth, but as a general rule, if you take the evening and you divide it up, we say that between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock at night is the pitta time of night. So if you're waking up during that period of time or having a hard time falling asleep at that time, pitta is usually disturbed. And you might be a little bit too, your mind is working in a way that is, well, more like it would be working during the day on your work, on your problems, you're trying to solve problems. You're trying to think about work. Maybe you've got work pressure that's keeping you awake at that time. That's why it's really important to go to bed by 10 o'clock so that pitta really hasn't gone very, very high and you're more relaxed. You're you're more relaxed if you go to bed between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And then you'll have an easier time falling asleep. You stay awake to 11, and now it's even harder to fall asleep. But and this is for Pitta, if you put aside all your work before you go to bed, just put it all aside. Maybe take an hour before bed to just relax and not think about work. Maybe take a bath, or a shower, and just wash the stress of the day off. Turn off the electronics. You know, I mean, if you're having a hard time sleeping, take that step. You know, if you're not having a difficult time sleeping and you're doing fine, you have a little more leeway with it. But when you're having that difficulty sleeping, you have an imbalance. Turn it off at least 1 hour before you go to bed, maybe even 2 hours before you go to bed. And that means not scrolling on your phone. You know, that means, you know, it's not just the television, it's the phone, it's the computer, it's the tablet, all of that. Well, then nowadays people say, well, what would I do? well, what would I do? Well, that, I guess, depends on your situation. Maybe you're living with a partner, in which case maybe you talk. You know, a lot of times keeps us awake is because we're not talking enough. We're not communicating enough. So maybe just talk about the day and download a little bit. Get it off your chest. Get it off your chest. Maybe write in a journal, especially if you're having a hard time sleeping. That's a great way to it's kind of put your thoughts there so they don't have to wake you up at night, and they'll be there for you in the morning if you really want to read them. And you can put in there all the things you still need to do if you want, you know, and what you're going to do tomorrow, and make sure you have that organized. You don't have to even think about it. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. So you're putting it aside. Or if you have irritation, write down your irritation. That way you get it off your chest, you get it off your mind, whether you tell it to your partner, whether you write it in your journal. Either way is fine. Maybe you have a hobby, you know, participate in your hobby before you go to bed. Maybe you play the piano, you play the guitar, you know, go ahead, play the piano and the guitar for an hour before bed and just relax. Read something gentle. Yeah, it's not a good idea to read a spy mystery, but maybe something that's a gentle book. That kind of a routine before you go to bed is going to be really helpful, especially for those with a pitta imbalance. And if you're having a difficult time falling asleep, or you're waking up at around midnight, it's usually more related to pitta. It doesn't mean it always is. You can have a severe vata imbalance that's also provoking pitta. So you can have combinations as well. And that's really important. You know, as long as we're on that topic, let's talk about other times as well. Those with the more vata imbalance, they're the ones that wake up closer to 4 o'clock. You know, maybe anywhere from 2 o'clock onward. You wake up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And that vata imbalance is more anxiety related. And this is not as easy to work with and just, you know, download to somebody before you go to bed, or write in your journal before you go to bed, because it tends to be deeper than that. There's something going on that is helping it. It's causing you to feel unstable, unsteady. A lack of safety in some way, whether it's financial safety, physical safety, emotional safety, all those things. The thing to do is to get up at that time. If you're waking up, don't just go back to bed and toss and turn and look at the clock and toss and turn and look at the clock. It doesn't help. What becomes really necessary is to calm down the nervous system at that time, because the nervous system is reacting to the fear, to the anxiety that is deep-seated within. For Vata, that's a great time to get up and put oil on your body, warm oil on your body. Give yourself a warm oil massage. Take some sesame oil, maybe put it in a glass bottle and put it in the hot water in the sink so it's nice and warm. And then massage your body from head to toe and just really take some time to love yourself. That whole process is going to nurture you. And then if you want, take a bath as well. You know, the combination of oil and warmth, that combination balances the nervous system of Vata. And so you can put bath oils in the bath as well, but relax. You've got to actually take an intervention for your nervous system. And that's really going to help. It's also a time that you can uh, spend a little time doing relaxation practices for your nervous system. And the most potent relaxation practice that I've come upon is the practice of Yoga Nidra. I made a recording called Yoga Nidra and Self-Healing, which can be downloaded. It's a 45-minute practice. So I would suggest that after you do your bath and you warm your body up and go back to bed, put on the recording because it's going to guide you for 45 minutes. You can do it laying down. You can do it in bed. You can do it out of bed, wherever you'd like to do it. You can do it in a reclining chair. It's going to guide you through awareness of all the individual body parts. And as you gain awareness of it, you relax each body part. And you examine it with your awareness. And you examine where the tension is and you begin to relax it. And the whole body begins to relax. This is a beautiful way of giving your body a deep rest, even if you're not sleeping. In fact, studies have shown that 1 hour in the practice of Yoga Nidra gives your body and your mind the same rest as 3 hours of sleep. And great masters have said this is because when you are practicing Yoga Nidra, you're not only relaxing your conscious mind, you're relaxing your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind almost never relaxes, but in Yoga Nidra, it does. You're getting a very, very, very deep rest. And if you go all the way through the practice, you can even enter into the state of Yoga Nidra and then activate your creative potential. And that means that you can see your life the way you'd like it to be, healing the parts of your body or the parts of your life that you feel like you need to heal. So for instance, you can visualize in the state of Yoga Nidra, after relaxing your entire body, healthy relationships, maybe with your children, maybe with your parents, depending upon what stage of life you're at. You can see yourself visualizing your success at work, your relationship with your boss. You can see yourself being at ease even in the dying process. Oh, there's nothing you can't imagine. And when you do, you become more solid in yourself and you are activating the healing potential of the universe. Yoga Nidra is a beautiful practice, not just for relaxation, but for creating the life of your dreams. And that life reduces your stress tremendously. And it actually activates the forces of the universe to manifest your vision of yourself, your sankalpa. That's what it does. That's what it's really for. It's really for engaging your sankalpa and creating the life of your dreams. That's a beautiful practice as well. Kapha individuals don't usually have as much of a challenge with sleep as those with a Vata or Pitta imbalance. If anything, when the stress level gets really high for them, they sleep too deeply and they don't want to get out of bed because they're not motivated. They're lacking motivation. They're lacking inspiration as a result of the stress in their lives. And when they wake up in the morning, they say, why bother? I'm going back to bed. So it's a different experience entirely for those with a physiological kapha imbalance. But difficulty with sleep can usually be due either to pitta dosha imbalance earlier in the night or vata dosha imbalance in the middle and the latter part of the night.
And I love that you brought up the Ayurvedic clock. I think it's such a helpful tool to understand our own person as well as the world around us from an energetic and elemental perspective. This 10 to 2 pitta time of night is where the midnight snack came from, right? Pitta rises, we start to get hungry. And it led me down the sort of digestive link. And a concept that often surprises people is the role of Agni, or digestive fire, with our mental health. Can you
Yeah.
explain how poor diet, irregular eating patterns, and a compromised gut contribute directly towards anxiety, depression, or burnout?
Yeah. Yeah. So that, people don't give enough attention to digestion and to understanding the relationship of stress, their digestion, and their sleep. They're all interconnected together. So, we have to obviously digest the food that we consume. If we're doing a good job with that, we are satiating our hunger and we feel really good. But stress interferes with what we call Agni, which is the fire of digestion. And that results in a wide variety of symptoms. And so, for instance, if you have more of a Vata imbalance, that stress is going to result in gas and bloating. And that's what that does. So we can say that's what anxiety does. It causes gas and bloating. If you have more of a Pitta imbalance, the Agni becomes actually too strong. So fire becomes too strong. Heat builds up in the belly. When that happens, you get burning indigestion. You get even sometimes loose stools as a result of that, because the body's trying to get rid of that heat through the stools. So burning indigestion, and loose stools for those with a Pitta imbalance from stress. And Kapha, they're affected by stress too, even though it takes more stress to really disturb them. But what winds up happening for them is really interesting. Their Agni becomes too low. And when that happens, they lose their appetite, but they feel heavy in their belly. They feel heavy in their belly. And it makes them sluggish. They get more and more and more sluggish as time goes on. And so the stresses in our lives, the physiological imbalances of the three doshas, manifest in our digestive system. And then, we try to go to bed at night, and if our digestion is off, it reflects the doshic disturbance. Our sleep is going to be off as well. And then most people wind up trying to figure out, what can I do in order to sleep? What can I do in order to find my way back to balance? As you said, some people get up and eat in the middle of the night. When you eat in the middle of the night, the reason people are compelled to do that is that as soon as you eat your food, kapha dosha is going to increase. And so it creates a sense of heaviness and slows everything down in your body, as your body now takes all of its energy to digest the food. Everything else now begins to slow down. And the mind slows down as well. So in fact, eating does help a lot of people in the middle of the night to kind of do two things. One is to take a mental break from whatever it is that they were anxious about, because as they're consuming food, there's a pleasure in the food. There's also a satiation or satisfaction that comes to the mind and to the body when they eat. Kapha dosha rises and sleep increases. So it's a valid strategy for some people. It may not be the healthiest, because it's not addressing the cause, but as a symptomatic approach, yeah, I understand why people do that. So the key really is to make sure we have a good, healthy eating schedule, that we're digesting our food well, so that when we go to bed, physiology is normal and we sleep well. Now, for some individuals, and this goes along with what I was saying about why they eat in the middle of the night. If you don't eat enough for dinner, You don't eat enough later at night, and you go to bed on an empty stomach. You go to bed on an empty stomach. You haven't eaten for many hours. That actually causes Vata to rise. So now you go to bed hungry, you go to bed with an empty stomach, you have a Vata imbalance just from not eating. Add that to the Vata imbalance of life, all the stresses in life and the anxiety that maybe you live with. And the empty stomach increases anxiety. And now you have the hardest time in the middle of the night sleeping. Of course, you get up and you eat, and that's treating the problem in a way. But really, the best way to do that is to eat maybe a meal just 3 hours before you go to bed. So that your body is satisfied. So if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, completing a meal at around 7 o'clock for those with a Vata imbalance, it's just for those with a Vata imbalance, can be really, really helpful to sleeping well during the night. And if you're digesting it well and you're not getting the anxiety or the gas and the bloating, you feel good, you're eating proper foods, you can even eat a little more. If that late meal. Make sure the kapha rises, carries you through the night. Your digestion will be okay. Make sure the foods you eat are Vata pacifying foods. And that's, of course, a big subject. And there's a lot of cookbooks and a lot of information out there about what foods balance Vata dosha. But it's not just the food. And I really want to emphasize that. It's actually how it's prepared. That's very important, because the foods that aggravate Vata, the foods that balance Vata, are also the same foods that are also hard to digest. So they have to be cooked properly, and they have to be cooked with the proper spices. So make sure you make a Vata pacifying meal, eat a pretty good amount of it, and complete your meal by around 7 o'clock if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock. If you happen to go to bed at 11 o'clock, then you need to complete your meal at 8 o'clock. Okay, this way you've got the food in your belly, and it's going to digest throughout the course of the night. See, people with a Vata imbalance, they need to eat frequently, because that empty stomach aggravates Vata dosha. So eating every 3 hours is really helpful. So you could theoretically eat a meal, and they don't have to be big meals, but they should be Vata pacifying meals at 7 o'clock in the morning, at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 7 o'clock in the evening. That may seem like a lot of meals. They don't all have to be big, but they do need to be Vata pacifying, and they do need to be prepared properly. And that keeps Vata at bay, and it calms the nervous system when you do that. Now, a person with a Pitta nature, it's different than a Pitta imbalance. That's going to be different. They typically do eat, and they like to eat. And it's true, if they miss a meal, they'll aggravate Vata, and that'll aggravate Pitta too. So you don't want them to miss a meal, okay? Because that Vata emptiness will aggravate Pitta. But 3 meals a day is going to be fine. And if they eat 3 good size, healthy meals a day, they do really well. So they could eat it, like every 5 hours or so, at 7 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and go to bed at 10 o'clock. That works out okay. A lot of times they want to snack a little bit at night. Make sure it's, because they have that strong appetite, make sure it's a healthy Pitta pacifying snack, and it's just a small amount. Just a small amount. You don't want to eat big before you go to bed. It's actually most difficult to digest your food overnight, because your Agni naturally becomes lower. So if you do feel compelled to have a healthy snack at night, it should be a Pitta pacifying snack in a small amount. That's going to be really important. And the Kapha individuals, they only need to eat twice a day. And so their metabolism is the slowest. They don't need to eat their first meal until 10 o'clock, even 11 o'clock. And then their next meal can be their dinner meal, and that can be at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And then that food will digest throughout the course of the next cycle, all the way until they have their next meal. And if you can eat at the proper times and digest your food well, then you'll avoid the Vata imbalances that aggravate the Vata of your life. Because life is it's pretty Vata imbalancing. And you'll aggravate and you'll avoid the Pitta challenges as well. So that's really, really the key when it comes to diet. And if there's nothing else you remember from all of that detail, remember not to go to bed on an empty stomach. On a completely empty stomach. Don't go to bed hungry if you already are having a difficult time sleeping, because that's only going to make it worse, whether you have a Vata imbalance or a Pitta imbalance. And you'll make sure that doesn't happen if you follow the proper eating rhythm that I just mentioned.
And with those rhythms, I'm hoping you could share with us a little bit more about the power of routines, from an Ayurvedic perspective. How can adopting these simple, consistent daily routines, Dinacharya, help to restore stability, to help anchor the mind, and to build a more lasting emotional resilience?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. When I think about dinacharya means your daily routines. But really what that is your lifestyle. What's your lifestyle? What's the style of your life from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed? What's your lifestyle like? What routines are you following? And if you're following healthy routines, you have a healthy lifestyle, you'll have a healthy body and a healthy mind. And if you don't have healthy routines, then you don't have a healthy lifestyle. That's going to disturb your body, and it's going to disturb your mind. And the mind that's disturbed cannot remember its true nature as spirit. It can't be established in its true self. And so it's constantly caught up in the drama. And we lose our grounding, we lose our whole sense of well-being, and the stress level rises. So managing stress is managing lifestyle. One part of that was your meal times. That's one part of your lifestyle, Dinacharya. Another part of your lifestyle is whether or not you're taking the time to learn, to know, and to prepare the foods that you're going to be, needing to take. Or is your lifestyle going to a restaurant every day? Or is your lifestyle going to fast food? Right? Or is your lifestyle, I'm taking the time to go shopping. I'm taking the time to prepare my food. I'm taking the time to make sure that it balances my doshas. That's a wonderful lifestyle. And that takes time, which brings up the entire rhythm of the day. What time are you waking up? Ayurveda says to wake up around the time the sun rises. For maybe Kapha individuals, even before the sun rises, maybe an hour before the sun rises. Pitta, half an hour before the sun rises, and Vata with the sun. But if you have a serious imbalance, and you're not well, let yourself sleep. Let yourself sleep. It's okay. Sleep is healing. Rest is healing. If you're sleeping well and you haven't been sleeping, sleep. If you're sick and you've got a disease and you need to sleep, sleep. But if you're doing pretty well, that's the rhythm to follow. And that gives you, more time usually during your morning. And then your morning practices can become a part of your life. Those practices in part depend upon your constitution, but for now we can just say, make time in the morning to get connected to your true self and to get yourself prepared for the day. The morning is the kapha time. It's the time of preparation. So get yourself prepared for the day. It's like building up your strength for the day physically and mentally. That might look like different things to different people, but Uh, you can get up in the morning and you can, maybe you have a place in your home for an altar. I have one right behind me here. Okay. Maybe you have a place in your home for an altar. And if you don't, maybe that's part of your practice is to build one. Put on the altar whatever is sacred for you. But maybe you sit and you do some meditation in the morning. Maybe you do some pranayama in the morning, which is yogic breathing practices in the morning. And all of this just is balancing your body and preparing you for the day and preparing your mind for the day. And maybe you do some yoga asana in the morning, a little bit of movement in the morning, stretching your body, getting your body prepared for the day. It's keeping your body toned too. But more than that, asana is also allowing prana to flow freely through your body, life energy to flow freely through your body. It's going to nourish you. It's going to keep you balanced. So imagine if you started every morning with some breathing practices, some meditation, some yoga asana. Oh, that would be really, really beautiful. Now, if you have the time in the morning, also add Ayurvedic specific practices into your morning, getting yourself prepared. Prepare for the morning by putting some oil on your body, some warm oil. Maybe before or after you do your practices, do some of that massage I talked about earlier. Just put some oil on your body, Oil builds something maybe we'll have time to talk about. It's called Ojas. And Ojas is what stabilizes your body, stabilizes your physiology, stabilizes your doshas, stabilizes your nervous system. It's like when you've oiled your body in the morning, it's like you go out the rest of the day and you're wearing a raincoat in a storm. And the storm of stress just washes right off of you because you put that oil on your body in the morning, because you did your morning practices. And now you're solid, you're steady in yourself. Because you're solid and steady in yourself, you're not disturbed by your boss. You're not disturbed by your coworkers. You're not disturbed by the dramas of the world. It's not that you don't listen to them. You're aware of them. You're just not, your physiology is not disturbed by it. In fact, what you feel when you're balanced is the many facets of love. You feel kindness. You feel compassion toward those who are struggling, toward those who are really having a bad day, to those who are caught up in the dramas of life. That's the way you experience life when you're experiencing it from a place of balance. So if you start your morning that way, you will be in balance through most of your day. I say most of your day because eventually the stresses may build up. You might spend all your ojas, and then you might find yourself caught up in it. But as you do that, every morning you're building your reserves, you're getting yourself ready. And then, of course you do your other practices, right? In the morning, you have to brush your teeth, you have to take care of yourself and take a shower and all of those different things that you do to take care of yourself. Ayurveda has a whole list of additional practices. If you want to bring those into your life, you can talk to your Ayurvedic practitioner about that, depending upon how much time you have in your life, things like practicing neti and cleaning your eyes and putting oil in your ears and so forth. But really, if you just start your morning with some pranayama, some meditation, some asana, and some oil massage, wow, what a difference your day is going to be if you're not doing those things already. Okay. And then you go through the course of your day, and that means you're of service to people and you're eating at the appropriate times. And you're taking time for yourself. And your service is going to be beautiful because you're serving from a place of love. When you're serving from a place of love and you're balanced, you're not feeling anxiety, you're not feeling depression. And then your evening comes around and you're not stressed out from your day because you've been serving from a place of love and kindness and compassion. And now you start your evening routines and you take care of yourself. And of course, the evening routine is a lot about what you don't do, right? It's especially if you're not sleeping well, getting on the computer, getting on the television, doing all of those things if you're not sleeping well. And definitely if you've got a pitta imbalance, don't work at night. Don't continue to work on your spreadsheets. Stop it. It's not good for you. Okay. I know you can't help it because you're pitta, and the nature of pitta is to want to keep on working. The nature of pitta is you've got control over everything. And the way you get control is by getting all those things in a nice, neat little box at night. But you can't do it and stay balanced at the same time. It's just really, really hard to do that. So put it away. Write down maybe what you need to do for tomorrow, and make sure at least an hour before you go to bed that you put it away. I say at least an hour before you go to bed. I really recommend 3 hours before you go to bed. You cannot do any work. Okay, 3 hours. Trust me on that. All right, I've learned the hard way. I'm poor. I'm more pitta, so I know that how compelling it can be to be organized and creative, but it's just not the time. You gotta learn to let it go and do those other things. Do your hobbies. Play the piano, play the guitar, play the drums, play with your spouse, play games, make love, do whatever it is that inspires you and opens your heart. That's going to really help you to sleep much better.
And finally, Dr. Halpern, as we start to wrap up our webinar today, for someone right now who's watching this, who feels depleted, someone who feels stressed, or someone who feels emotionally disconnected, someone with low Ojas, where would you begin? What is the most accessible Ayurvedic practice you recommend that they implement today to start healing their mind?
The one practice that's the best practice of all, everyone wants to know the one, it's the one that you're actually going to do. What's your next step? That's what I always tell my patients. What's your next step? Here's some options for you. Put oil on your body every day, the warm oil, and do the warm oil massage. If you're not doing that, consider it. Just consider it. Here's another one for you. And these are options. You don't have to do them all. You got low Ojas. Put some oil in the bath water. Take a nice warm bath once a day. Calm down your Vata and to build your Ojas. It builds Ojas. Oil builds Ojas. Third option for you. The very best way to build Ojas is actually through healthy digestion. Now, I say the best, it doesn't mean it's the easiest or the quickest. Let's begin to work on your Ojas, which means consuming high Ojas building foods, but being able to digest them. A lot of times you have to work with an Ayurvedic practitioner on that. We have a clinic, by the way, at the California College of Ayurveda that works with you if you wish to. We can do it all through video. We have wonderful practitioners that can work with you both on your sleep challenges, your stress challenges, and your digestive challenges, and many other things as well. But normalizing your Agni and digesting food properly is a key to building Ojas. It really is. So those are three things that I can recommend, but I'm not saying that you should just suddenly do all three of them. When we work with our patients, we do so slowly and gradually over time. I work with most of my patients over 6 to 12 months. And during that period of time, I see them not only for an initial visit, I see them for follow-up visits at first every week to give you the support that you need to successfully implement Ayurveda into your life. I always tell our students, it's not the person who knows the most that's the best Ayurvedic practitioner. It's the one that's best able to support their patients to implement Ayurveda successfully into their lives. That's what makes you a great Ayurvedic practitioner. Our whole clinical program at the college is set up to help you to be successful implementing it into your life. If you make real change in your Dinacharya, in your lifestyle, that's going to not only affect your body and not only affect your mind, it affects your consciousness. It's actually a form of spiritual growth and development. So that's our goal in Ayurveda, is the integration of body and mind and consciousness to help you to be successful doing all of those things. So those are a few tips that you can do to build up your Ojas.
Well, I want to thank you so much for the wisdom that you continue to share with our community, for helping us all to age much more gracefully, and for the work that you continue to do to share, the wonders really of Ayurveda. We talked about so many important pieces of our emotional well-being today, and in a world where that overwhelm, that vata, continues to run wild, it's more and more important to find our roots, to find our center, and to bring our power back into ourself, to take control of our own health, our own well-being. The tools we talked about today are simple but very effective in their action, and it's where the real wonder and beauty of Ayurveda comes in. The changes that we make don't need to be this grand event. They are small little shifts in our person and our routine that stand the test of time. The things that we continue to implement, that we continue to work with. And I'm very grateful to know that I have all of these tools available to help take control of my own emotional well-being. So thank you for the time you shared with us today.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes. Thank you both so much for a wonderful conversation. I know, Dr. Halpern, you talk about taking it slow and taking time. And I tend to talk fast and go to the next thing, but really appreciate how Chris also was able to ask the questions and get deep. And I think a lot of our audience also really appreciated this conversation. So I have a little poll up if you've taken a course at CCA before, if you're enrolled in a program, or maybe you are considering taking a course. Let us know. We'd love to keep this conversation going, and we will. This is a monthly conversation with Dr. Mark Halpern. We'll put out the next one shortly. Of course, at Hindu University of America, we are so glad that this marriage with CCA has been pretty smooth, right? We're a year in and it's sticking. And we've got a big vision for the future. You're a part of it. Not just Dr. Mark Halpern and Chris here today, but all of you joining us from wherever you are joining from. So please do consider, come to the webinars again, but really enroll in a course and take this deeper for yourself, for your family, for your community. There's so much, and right in this one webinar, we touched on a lot and a lot of things that I think are really helpful to people and what they're going through in their daily lives. So, really glad to be a part of this and listening in on the conversation. Yeah, that's it from me. Please do fill out the poll. Let us know. Hope to see you next time. And Dr. Mark, do you want to end with a mantra or a closing thought, something to leave our audience with? I know you have so many nuggets of wisdom, uh, so I'll give it to you to close us out.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me just share that no matter what your age, whether you're a child, whether you are in the middle age years, or you're in your vanaprastha or sannyasa stages of life, no matter what stage of life you're in, where I began today was saying that Swasta is when you are solid and steady in yourself. That's what keeps your physiology solid and steady. It means remembering your true nature as spirit. But relating to that idea is sometimes difficult because we're all, like the spirit aspect is a little beyond the mind to fully comprehend. So the simple way I want you to think about that, the simple way I want you to think about the divine, to think about God, to think about spirit, is to think about love. And I want you to think in terms of love. When a child is loved, they feel steady in themselves. When a child lacks love, they feel unsteady in themselves. Love is what makes us healthy. That's true at every age, at every stage of our lives. And it's not just being loved, it's loving others. So the more we open ourselves up to being loved and to loving others, more love is flowing between us. And we're more steady in ourselves. Our physiology is calmer and steadier. And sure, we'll sleep well, but every aspect of our lives will be so much better. And so one of the things I often tell students is that we can also look at disease as a lack of love, the absence of love. Whether it's on a cellular level, an atomic level, it's affecting our nervous system, our immune systems, our heart, our lungs, our liver. Love is ultimately what heals us, and love is what keeps us healthy. So my wish for all of you as we close today is that through your journey into Ayurveda and through your journey into yoga, that you allow the love in, the love that's all around you, and you contribute to that love so that every action you take and every word you speak is loving and kind and uplifting. Many blessings to you all on your healing journeys. I'll chant closing mantra. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugantim Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Bantanan Mrityo Mukshiyamam Vritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugantim Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Bantanan Mrityo Mukshiyamam Vritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugantim Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Bantanan Mrityo Mukshiyamam Vritat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Namaste everyone. Thank you.